My definition of success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. And only you as an individual will know whether you did that or not. You can fool others, but you can't fool yourself. I had 3 blocks forming the foundation, and these 3 blocks are all similar in as much as they include others. And when we include others, we are adding strength. 1 block is friendship. Another is loyalty, and another is cooperation. Friendship is something that you must work at. Don't take friendship for granted. It isn't friendship when someone's doing something nice for you. That's a nice person. But it's friendship when you do for each other. Friendship to me is a lot like marriage. Two-sided, both sides must work at it. It cannot be successful, a happy marriage unless both sides are working at it. And friendship is much the same way. The center block is loyalty. I think we need someone and something to whom and to which we must be loyal if we're ever going to come close to reaching our own particular level of competency. Bill Walton was an unusual person in so many ways. He wasn't a rebel, as some people have called him, however. He was just one of those in the 60s of the anti-establishment. As far as basketball, you couldn't have a finer person on your team than Bill Walton. But between practices, I had concerns.
I thought I was free at last when I left home to go to UCLA. And here we were in the age of Nixon and Vietnam and Watergate and rock and roll exploding on the scene. And I thought I was just going to be up there totally on my own, having the time of my life. But then there was Coach Wooden standing right there on the steps saying, "Come right on in here, young man. You're mine for the next 4 years."
He knew that I had certain rules, such as I didn't permit extra long hair and beards. We had one period between games of about 10 days, and he didn't shave, and it didn't look very good. He said to me after, "Coach, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Certainly." Privately. And I said, "You can talk before Ducky," that was our trainer and assistant, and he said, "Well, I just wasn't going to shave." Oh, I said, "Yes, I'd heard that, Bill. That had been, you'd bandied that around, and it got around that you weren't going to shave. And do you believe in this strongly?" "Oh, yes. Yes, I believe in it very strongly." And I said, "I have great respect and admiration for people who stand up for the things in which they believe." "I do, Bill, and we're going to miss you." And he stood there for a minute and said, "I'll shave."
I fought with Coach Wooden over these incredibly meaningless things. At the time, I thought they were the most important things in the world. I've got a saying on my desk from Coach Wooden at home. It's the things we learn after we know it all that really count in our lives. Those lessons in life are truly the greatest ones.
For Coach, the center of the Pyramid's foundation, loyalty, ultimately meant being true to what you feel in your heart to be right, even if it challenges something that you've always believed in.
In the 60s, I found myself very critical of young men in our country who were running away to Canada or the Scandinavian countries to avoid the draft that was happening in those years. I didn't want my grandchildren to run away if they're called. I didn't want them to run away. I hoped they wouldn't be called, but my, I was so critical of those that were. I had occasion to fly across country, and upon my return on a plane, I picked up a magazine, read something that had been written by a person who was a foot soldier. He was in the infantry in World War I, and there was a terrible battle. He sat down and wrote some lines that he chose to call Two Sides of War. And they went something like this: "All wars are planned by older men in council rooms apart. They call for greater armament and map the battle chart. But out upon the shattered fields where golden hopes are gray, how very young the faces are where all their dead men lay. portly and solemn in their pride, the elders cast their vote for this or that or something else that sounds the warlike note. But where their sightless eyes stare out, and gone are all their joys, I've noticed nearly all the dead were hardly more than boys. The average age of our fatalities was in the teens. Considerably older people send them to their deaths. And you know, I'm glad I made that trip. It helped me get rid of that criticism that was perhaps within me, and I wasn't realizing it. But that, I hope that helped me become a better person. The next block is cooperation. Today, when you think of the fact that we see things that are happening on the other side of the world and in outer space, and the travel today, we get places almost before we leave, and that makes the world smaller, and that makes us need cooperation of all others in so many ways.
The pyramid is based on simple universal truths that persist even in an ever-expanding universe, and even if they were learned back when the world was a much simpler place.
I graduated from a small country grade school of 3 rooms, and my father gave me a little card, and on the card was a 7-point creed. Be true to yourself, help others, make friendship a fine art, make each day your masterpiece, drink deeply from good books, build a shelter against a rainy day, and give thanks for your blessings and pray for guidance every day. My dad had 2 sets of 3s that he tried to get across to me and my brothers. One was, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. And you know, if you don't lie, you won't have to remember what you said. And the other set of 3s was, don't whine, don't complain, don't make excuses, just do the best you can. We were cleaning out stalls in the barn and adjoining stalls. This brother was 3 years older than I, and he had a pitchfork of manure that he threw right over in my face. I was irritated considerably. I couldn't whip him because he was 3 years older, and I knew I couldn't, but I didn't think about that. I went after him, and but the thing I did so poorly was I called him a name that I shouldn't have called him, and my dad happened to overhear, and Dad took action, and I had the hardest whipping I ever received. I think my brother got a harder one, but I don't think since this day, no one's ever heard me use a word of profanity since, and I think I learned to control the temper. I lost my temper when this happened, but the lesson was good, and we all need lessons of that sort occasionally. My definition of success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. And only you as an individual will know whether you did that or not. You can fool others, but you can't fool yourself.